perform the Salatul Jumu'ah. As far as the time of the Salatul Jumu'ah is concerned, there's a difference of opinion among the fuqaha based on the different ahadith and athar. Ahadith is simply which we know as كل قول أو فعل أو تقرير نسب إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And then taqreer is is it approval of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Something was done or something was spoken in front of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and did not object to it. And then athar explores athar. Athar means the practice of the Sahaba. Actually, the practice of the Sahaba is a clarifier of many of the ahadith. Specifically, when there is the arudul nusus, when there is apparent contradiction between the two sets of the ahadith, then the practice of the Sahaba also helps us to understand that particular issue. So when we see the ahadith and athar, there are also difference of opinion among the Sahaba, among the tabi'in, and that difference of opinion descended down among the fuqaha. So, as a general rule, as a legal maxim, I have discussed this before, that ikhtilaf actually shows the flexibility of the issue. It's not a contradiction, it shows actually the flexibility. And same applies to the waqtu Salatul Jum'ah, the specific time for Salatul Jum'ah. So when does it start? So there are few, on one side there is Hanabila, Shawafiya and Hanafiya. They have one opinion. Sorry, Malikiya, Shawafiya and Hanabila, they have Malikiya, Hanafiya and Shawafiya, they have one opinion. And on the other side, there are Hanabila, and then some Zahiri, also Zahiri school of law, some scholars of the Zahiri school of law, they also follow the opinion of Hanabila that the time for Jum'ah is different than that of time of Dhuhr. Time of Dhuhr, we know that we have discussed when we talked about the time schedule of the prayers. There we discussed that the time of Dhuhr starts when the sun passes the meridian. When sun crosses the zenith, when it tilts towards the west, then the time of the Dhuhr starts. However, this majority opinion holds the same ruling for the Jumu'ah. They say the time of the Salatul Jumu'ah starts when the sun passes the meridian, or when sun crosses the zenith, then the time of the Salatul Jumu'ah starts. So it means that according to the Jamhur, according to Hanafi, Shafi and Maliki fuqaha, if any person performs Friday prayer before the sun passes the meridian, so according to the Jamhur, Salah is invalid. But for Hanbali fuqaha and some Zahiri fuqaha, they say specifically on Friday, there is no such condition as that of the Dhuhr. Because as they cite certain athar that some of the Sahaba, they performed the Salah right before the sun passed the meridian. So it means that Salatul Jummah, the timing for the Salatul Jummah is not as that of the Salatul Zuhr. So according to them, it differs. So now we shall see, this is the gist of the discussion. And now we shall see the explanation of what Sayyid Sabiq rahimahullah has mentioned, that according to Sayyid Sabiq, he says the majority of the companions and successors were of the opinion that the time of the Salatul Jummah is same as that of Salatul Zuhr, as I said before. This is the majority opinion of companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and successors, that is Tabi'in. And Ahmad, Al-Bukhari, Abu Dawud, Imam At-Tirmizi, and Al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah ta'ala ajma'in record from Anas ibn Malik radhiyallahu anhu that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray al-Jumu'ah when the sun had passed its meridian. The hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Musnad Ahmad, Abu Dawud, Tirmizi, and Al-Bayhaqi. Imam Al-Bayhaqi has also recorded this hadith that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed the Salatul Jum'ah when sun had passed its meridian. So it means that as that of the Salatul Dhuhr. Ahmad and Muslim record that Salamat ibn al-Aqwa radhiyallahu anhu was a Sahabi who said, we would pray Salatul Jum'ah with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the sun had passed the meridian. And when we return from the Salah, we will be following our shadow. So it means we will be following our shadow is simply that when sun is tilted towards the west, then only then we can have the shadow. Because when sun is at its zenith, when sun is at its meridian, there is no shadow at all. That's exactly when sun is on top of us. There is no shadow at all. So Salamat ibn Aqwa says radiallahu anhu that when we would when Salah would be over and we would be getting back to our houses, so we would follow the shadow. Means that sun had already passed the meridian. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah has also said the time of Salah, Salatul Jum'ah, is when the sun passes its meridian. And similar narrations have been recorded from Sayyidina Umar, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Nu'man ibn Bashir, and Umar ibn Harith, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and the Imams after them all prayed the Jummah when the sun had passed its zenith. So that is the statement of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. Because Imam al-Shafi'i is also among the Jumhur, who holds the opinion that the time for Jum'ah is as that of the Dhuhr. However, the scholars of Hanbali school of law and Ishaq ibn Rahawayh was one of the famous muhaddis. They're of the opinion that the time for Salatul Jum'ah is from the beginning of the time for Salatul Eid to the end of the time for the Zuhr. Salatul Eid is actually when the sun has appeared after the sunrise, and then after sunrise around 2 spears ahead. So it is long before even Duha. It starts. And then according to them, it is up to the last time of the Dhuhr. This is the opinion of Hanbali fuqaha and some Zahiri fuqaha, and also Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh rahimahullah ta'ala. And they base their argument, their opinion on what Imam Ahmad, Imam Muslim, and Imam An-Nasai rahimahullah record from Sayyidina Jabir radiallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray al-Jumu'ah, and then we would take our camels to rest until the sun passed its zenith. This is the zahir of the hadith. Sayyidina Jabir said the hadith of Jabir is the evidence with Hanbali fuqaha, Zahiri fuqaha, and Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh rahimahullah ta'ala. That Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray al-Jumu'ah, and then we would take our camels to rest until the sun passed its zenith. This hadith clearly states that they prayed al-Jumu'ah before the sun passed the meridian. They also cited as a proof the hadith of Abdullah ibn Saydan as-Salami radiyallahu anhu, who said, we prayed al-Jumu'ah with Abu Bakr and his khutbah and salah were before noon. Then we prayed with Usman and his khutbah and salah lasted until after the sun had passed the meridian, and no one scolded either for it. This is later by Ahmad, who cites it as a proof, and by Ad-Daraqutni. Imam Ahmad adds, and something similar to that has been related from Ibn Mas'ud, Jabir, Sa'id, and Muawiyah, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. They all prayed before the sun passed the meridian, and no one objected to what they did. And that was the consensus. The majority of the scholars, however, interpret the hadith of Jabir as I said before, the majority opinion goes as that of Salatul Dhuhr. Then how do they respond to the hadith of Jabir, in which Jabir says radiallahu anhu that we would perform the salah, then we would take our camels for the rest, and that was before the sun has passed the meridian. So the Jamhur, they respond to this hadith. They say that Jabir radiallahu anhu, his hadith implies that one should pray salah early in its time, when the sun has passed the meridian, and not wait until the weather gets cool. So actually the hadith is not that exactly they performed the salah just before the sun has passed the meridian. Rather, it is soon after sun passed the meridian, they performed the salah, and then after performing the salah, they took the camels for the rest. And the prayer and the resting of the camels was right after the sun passed the meridian, not exactly before sun passed the meridian. So as to the report of Abdullah ibn Saydan, these scholars consider it weak. Majority of fuqaha and scholars say that the dalil of Saydan is weak. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, he mentions about him in Fathul Bari, he is one of the major tabi'in, that is of the generation after the companions, and his integrity is not well established. Actually, a person can be pious, but not necessarily that he is acceptable before the muhaddithin. The criteria for muhaddithin, the hadith, the scholars of the hadith, is very strict. A person may be muttaqi, a pious person, but not trustworthy. Trustworthy is not in a sense that he is dishonest or he is doing something wrong or he commits a fisk or any disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Trustworthiness actually relates to maybe his memory is not sharp. Maybe he forgets the things or he's not able to understand the proper issues. So that's how in the terminology of the Usul al-Hadith, a person is considered to be not trustworthy. But as far as the taqwa is concerned, he may be having a lot of taqwa. Imam Az-Zahabi rahimahullah has mentioned Tadhkiratul Huffaz that Sayyidina Ibn Abbas anhuma, there were 500 narrators in Medina, 500 people, and there was consensus upon their taqwa that they are very pious people, but none would take the hadith from them. So not taking if the muhaddis does not take a hadith from a person, that doesn't mean that he's a liar or he's dishonest. So trustworthy means that the criterion which muhaddisin have set for accepting the hadith, that person doesn't qualify that criteria. Likewise, hadith of Sayyidan. So majority fuqaha and muhaddisin say that the hadith is weak because because of the rawi, because of the narrator, which Ibn Hajar says rahimahullah, his integrity is not well established. Adi says rahimahullah, he is somewhat majhul, that is unknown as a trustworthy person. Imam Bukhari says about him, his report is not to be trusted, especially when he is contradicted by people who are most credible, that is, they are qawi, than him, as Ibn Abi Shayba relates from Suwaid ibn Ghafla that the later prayed with Abu Bakr and Umar after the sun had passed the meridian and its change is strong. So when we analyze and when we review all the opinions of the fuqaha, then the majority opinion stands out to be preponderant and strong. That is, time of the Salatul Jummah, time of the prayer, Friday prayer is that of the time of the Zuhr. So one should wait until sun passes the meridian. Now the question is that what if a person performed with this intention that he inclines or he professes the opinion, he subscribed to the opinion of Hanabila or Zahiri school of thought? Yes. If a person subscribed to their opinion and according to this opinion, he based his argument upon this opinion, that is also permissible to perform the salah before the meridian, sun passes the meridian. So his salah, we can say, according to that opinion, is valid. Here we cannot show a strict ruling because there is a khilaf, there's a difference of opinion. However, I always say that it is better to follow thousands of Einstein than to follow one single Einstein. So whatever majority fuqaha say, it is better to rely on this, and that is the safest path, because there have been tremendous amount of scholars, having enormous knowledge and profound and deep knowledge, discreet and erudite in their stance of knowledge. So they all rely on the opinion, as Imam Shafi put it, rahimahullah ta'ala, that the best time or the proper time, appropriate time for Salatul Jummah, it starts when sun passes the meridian, and so on and so forth. So we can summarize the gist that there are two opinions, two schools of thought. One is majority fuqaha, who say that the Salatul Jummah, it starts as that of the Dhuhr prayer, means when sun passes the meridian. And then there is also, we can say, a rare opinion. That rare opinion is of Hanabila and some Zahiri school of thought, who say that it is before the sun, if a person, the time starts as that of the Salatul Eid, not as that of the Salatul Dhuhr. So it means that if a person performs Salatul Jummah before the sun passes the meridian, sun passes the zenith, so his salah is also valid according to this rare opinion. And then another important issue about the Salatul Jummah is, since it's a special prayer in a week, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically mentions about it in the Quran, and there's a surah, there's a chapter named as Suratul Jumu'ah. And now there's another important thing about how many people are required to establish Salatul Jumu'ah. And there's also a number of opinions about this issue. And however, congregation means a jama'ah is a necessary condition. Now the issue is how many people. Congregation, there's no dispute among the scholars that a congregation is a necessary condition for the validity of the Salatul Jum'ah. And this is based on the hadith of Sayyidina Tariq ibn Shihab radiallahu anhu, who reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-Jumu'ah is an obligation, wajib, upon every Muslim in the community. So when Prophet said Al-Jumu'ah is an obligation upon every Muslim in the community, so it means that the congregation is a must. A necessary condition is to have the Jama'ah. However, the scholars differ on how many people are required for Salatul Jum'ah. There are almost 15 opinions of the scholars. So again, when I say that there are 15 different opinions on this question, and Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned these 15 opinions in Fathul Bari. Fathul Bari is one of the authentic sharah, authentic commentary on Sahih al-Bukhari. And there is a difference of opinion. As far as the 4 schools of law are concerned, specifically, there's Hanafi Fuqaha. They say that minimum requirement for establishment of the Salatul Jum'ah is that there must be 3 people or more than 3. Based on what's the evidence for them? Their evidence is based on, when we see in the lugha, in the language, linguistically, when we say Jama'ah, it is Jama'ah in Arabic applies to more than 2. So more than 2 is minimum 3. Maximum there can be no, and millions and billions of people can also form one single Jama'ah. But the minimum criterion to set for a congregation is more than 2. Why more than 2? In English language or in Urdu or in Kashmiri, in Persian language, I think it is also in the Bahasa, that singular is 1. More than 1, it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So more than 1 forms the plural. But in Arabic, the rule goes somehow different to the general languages. In Arabic language, Wahid plural stands for 1. And for 2, we don't say it is Jama'ah. We say Tathniyah, dual. Singular, dual, and 2 is dual. So more than 2, it can be 3, 4, 5, 6, minimum 3, maximum any number. So based on this linguistic definition of Jama'ah, they say the minimum, since there is no any hadith in which Prophet also mentioned a specific number for the establishment of the Jumu'ah. Therefore, it gives rise to the difference of opinion. So there is no any clear-cut hadith which could clearly mention the minimum number of people required for the establishment of the Jumu'ah. So Fuqaha differ. So Hanafi Fuqaha, they say minimum. So it means that if there are 3 people upon whom Jumu'ah is obligatory, so they can establish the Jumu'ah. As far as their opinion is based on that Sayyidina Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu, when he was in Medina, he established the Jumu'ah in Medina, and there were 12 people. They say actually 12 people means that they had embraced Islam. So it means that any number which is more than 2, that qualifies to be Jama'ah. Therefore, 3 is a minimum requirement. And Hijazi ulama, contemporary Hijazi ulama, that is from Makkah and Medina, they also subscribe to the same opinion, that minimum requirement is that there should be 3 people in order to establish the Salatul Jum'ah. And Sayyid Sabiq also holds the same opinion. The strongest opinion is that Salatul Jum'ah is valid if there are 2 or more people present, since the Prophet is reported to have said 2 or more constitute a congregation. 2 or more constitute a congregation. So based on this, they say the number required for the establishment of the Salatul Jum'ah is minimum 3. Now, Maliki Fuqaha, they say the minimum number of people required for the establishment of the Salatul Jum'ah is 12. Again, based on the hadith of Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu, that when Sayyidina Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu, he established the Jum'ah in Medina, so there were 12 people. So they say minimum requirement is 12 people. That is the second opinion. And then the third opinion is that of Hanbali Fuqaha and Shafi Fuqaha. Hanbali and Shafi Fuqaha, they say the number of people required for the establishment of the Jumu'ah is 40. So if it is less than 40, it's not a requirement. So they don't fulfill the condition. So a minimum requirement, it means that if there are less than 40 people, say 20, 25, 30, 35, 36, so they are not obliged to establish the Jumu'ah, rather they can simply perform the Salatul Zuhr as Jama'ah. But if the number reaches to the 40, but those 40 upon whom the Jumu'ah is obligatory, it means that if there is if there is a slave among the 40, if there are children among the 40, still the condition is not fulfilled. 40 means upon those 40 people upon whom the Salatul Jummah is obligatory. So if they fulfill this condition, then and only then they can establish the Salatul Jummah. So that is the third opinion based on the hadith of Sayyidina Ka'b ibn Malik radhiyallahu anhu, who said that we performed the first Jum'ah after after the Jum'ah of Al-Madinatul Munawwarah, which was in Nuqay al-Khasamat, the name of the place. He said, we performed and he was asked, how many people you were there? He said, 40 people. So Fuqaha, Hanbali, Hanabila, and Fuqaha Shafi'ah, they take from this Athar, they take from this Dalil that Sayyidina Ubay ibn Ka'b said that there were 40 people. It means that if there were less than 40 people, it's not a condition. If there were 40 people, so they are not required to perform the Salatul Jum'ah, rather they have to perform Salatul Zuhr. So this is the difference of opinion. Now it means that, as I said before, applying the same rule of difference of opinion, that if some people they perform there are 5 people, 10 people, they establish a Jumu'ah, we can say their Jumu'ah is altogether valid because the minimum requirement is 3 people. And now what about the 2? If there are 2 people and there's no one beside them, so we can say there's no obligation of Jumu'ah upon them because the basic condition, that is condition of congregation. For Salatul Zuhr, as a necessary condition, congregation is not a necessary condition. So it means that Salatul Zuhr, if a person happened to be even alone, he has to perform it. But Salatul Jumu'ah, on the contrary, congregation is a necessary condition. Al-Jama'ah is a necessary condition. Therefore, a person, if there are only 2 people, so there is no obligation upon them to perform the Salatul Jumu'ah. Yes, Salatul Zuhr is altogether, by any way they have to perform this. However, as I said before, now this difference of opinion makes the issue quite flexible. That if few people, they want to just perform the Salatul Jumu'ah, for example, if there are, say for example, there are followers of the Hanafi school of law. So minimum requirement is 3. There are followers of Shafi school of law, the minimum requirement is 40, for example. So they go, some people, they go for study abroad. And there is, they don't find the 40 people that who can just gather together and perform the Salatul Jummah. So this way, they can lose the Salatul Jummah, the significance, the importance of the Salatul Jummah will altogether be relegated and receded. For such people, it is highly recommended that they should follow the other opinions of the school of law. That if they find the Jumu'ah there, and even if the number is not 40, they should join them so that the significance and the essence of the Jumu'ah is not lost at all. And that's how this difference of opinion helps us. Because our conditions are different at different places. And this difference of opinion helps us a lot. And even World Fiqh Academy, right now, they also use the same approach. Gone are the days that they stick to a specific madhab. They want to see that which is easiest for people to follow. And if the dalil is strong, they follow. They don't see whether this is Hanafi dalil, this is Shafi dalil, this is Maliki dalil, this is Hanbali dalil. Actually, what Quran says, yuridullah bikum al-yusra wa la yurid bikum al-usra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make things easier for you, not to make difficult for you. So using the same Quranic approach, they see the dalail, they see the adillah or the evidences, irrespective of who says this, whether this is Hanafi school or Shafi school or Maliki school or Hanbali school. So yes, and even they go beyond these 4 schools of law. They have Imam Abdul Rahman al-Awza'i, Lais ibn Sa'd, Ishaq ibn Rahawai, a number of galaxy of scholars. They were also of the stature of the Mujtahideen. So they also seek their opinions to find out the solutions to the upcoming issues and problems. So just summarizing the gist of the discussion simply, as far as the number of people required for the Salatul Jummah is concerned, there's also quite flexibility starting from the 3 and until any number which is possible for the people to gather at a place and to perform behind one imam. It can be 5,000, it can be even 1 million, it can be even millions of the people if there's such possibility that they can follow one single imam, and if there is such arrangement that they can easily follow one imam. So number can be even up to the millions. However, if there are only two people, then it's quite obvious. And even at some place, it is quite possible that they are for even more than 3 or more than 40 people, but they are dispersed and they are not able. There is some sort of impediment that they cannot gather together. Say, for example, they are in a war-torn country where all the people are held in their hostages in their own houses. So in one house there are two people, then another house there are also two people, in another house there are also two people. So they cannot get together. So again, we can say the hukum of Salatul Jummah won't be applied to them because congregation is a necessary condition. And congregation simply is more than two. So there are only two, not more than two. Yes, there is also a rarest of the rare opinion that even the two, if there are two people, they can also perform the Jummah. That's also based on the linguistic difference, because one of the school of the grammarians, that is Nahwijin, they hold the opinion that even two also constitute to be the Jama'ah, but that's a Shah's opinion. They base, I don't know the evidences of their argument, but they say if it is one, more than one, that means if there's two, it constitutes to be Jama'ah. Based on this opinion, so there's one Shah's rarest of the rare opinion, which says that even two people can also perform the Jum'ah, but which is not a preponderant opinion, which goes against the majority of the, even Hanbali fuqaha, they even don't accept this opinion. Zahiri ulama, they even don't accept this opinion that two people can perform the Salatul Jum'ah, because the minimum requirement is 3 people. So 2, it doesn't qualify. Therefore, if there are 2 people, there's no application of Jummah upon them. They can easily perform the Salatul Zuhr. So this was the issue of, firstly, we talked about the time of Salatul Jum'ah. Then there are 2 opinions. Majority opinion is that it starts after the sun passes the meridian. After sun passes the zenith, crosses the zenith, then the Salatul Jum'ah starts. So if a person, according to this majority opinion, if a person performs before the time, his salah is invalid, he is required to repeat the salah. But if he follows the opinion of, subscribe to the opinion of the Hanbali thought, then his salah is valid if there is a congregation. That is the first opinion. Second opinion is, yes, it starts from as that of the salat, time of Salatul Eid until the Salatul Asr. So in between, a person can, any point of time, he can perform the salah. But of course, not the preferred opinion, not the qawl or rajih. Then second thing we talked about, that's the number of the people required for the establishment of the Salatul Jum'ah, and that is one opinion according to Hanafi fuqaha, it should be minimum 3. For Maliki fuqaha, it should be minimum 12. For Hanbali and Shafi fuqaha, it should be minimum 40. Upon those who are addressee of the Jum'ah, means upon whom Salatul Jum'ah is an obligation. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to understand the ahkam of the deen in a broader way, in a broader context, and so that we can apply this under different conditions. And wallahi, there's a remedy for a number of problems of ours. So which our conditions vary, our situations vary. So these differences of opinion help us to use these, we can use these opinions. However, yes, one thing is very important, that under the opinion of the scholars, because many times if we just start our own ijtihad and we lack the knowledge, we don't have the proper knowledge of the Quran, proper knowledge of the Sunnah, and then deriving the ahkam from the Quran and Sunnah, there's a hectic and there's very, very, we can say, prudential job, which is specifically for the fuqaha. Therefore, it must be done under the guidance of the scholars. Yeah. So this is all for today. Then there are some other important discussions about the Salatul Jum'ah. We inshallah discuss about it in our upcoming session. Say, for example, there are certain conditions put forward by the fuqaha, and some scholars they say we don't accept, we don't subscribe to these conditions because they're not in the Quran and Sunnah. But when we go deep, we find out, yes, these conditions put forward with the fuqaha, they also has the base. It's not that they say out of their own whims, out of their own desire. So what are these conditions which they put as a necessary condition for Salatul Jum'ah? So we will see, and their evidences as well in our upcoming session, inshallah. So if there is any question with anyone, you can ask, please. جزاكم الله تعالى خيرا. سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallahu khairan.